Hello, Aries. I don't know what time of day you're hearing this. Maybe it's early in the morning or deep into the night, when everything around you has finally gone still. But I believe this. If you're here right now, it's not by accident. Something inside you is shifting. Something in you no longer wants to keep going the way it has. And maybe, just maybe, you've been wondering, is this my moment? If your heart stirred even just a little when you heard that question, then maybe you've already heard the first calling. So come with me. Let's begin from there, from that quiet space where all the noise fades, so the truth within you can finally rise and speak. There are moments in life that don't come with sirens or alarms. No warnings, no one tapping your shoulder to say, this is it. They arrive like a strange breath, soft as early morning mist, but just enough to make you stop, like catching your own gaze in the mirror and quietly wondering, why do I feel different today? And if you are Aries, the silent warrior of fire, you know this. Real change doesn't always begin with action. It begins with a nameless feeling, an intuition you can't explain, a pause between two breaths, when you suddenly no longer want to keep running. Maybe this morning, everything outside looked the same. The alarm clock, your usual cup of coffee, that familiar road, but inside, something was shifting, as if a door somewhere deep within had just cracked open. You may not see it yet, but you can feel the light beginning to seep through the gap. Carl Jung once said, only those who are awake will be guided. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to wake up. You don't need to understand everything right now. You don't need a plan. Just pause for a moment, not to turn back, but to listen. Listen closely to that small, honest echo, a fragile voice asking, is it time? Do you really want to keep going like this? I'm not here to answer that for you. I'm just here to invite you to place your hand over your heart and ask honestly, do you dare believe that what you're feeling right now is real? Because I know many people lose their first calling simply because they are afraid of change, afraid of not being enough, afraid that the light inside them is too fragile to hold. But if you've heard this message, then the call is still there, and you can still answer, not perfectly, just truthfully. A friend once told me, there was a night I couldn't sleep, not because I was worried, but because something in me kept whispering, tomorrow everything could begin again. And you know what? That tomorrow is today. The moment you admit you can't go on living the same way is the moment you begin to live truthfully. Aries, you are courageous, not because fear never visits you, but because you keep walking, even when fear walks beside you. So give yourself permission to begin again, not from zero, but from truth. And if there's still a quiet voice inside you saying, I can't keep doing this, please don't call it weakness. That is your calling. Now let me tell you something, not from a book, not from a glamorous prophecy, but something only you can recognize, a sign that's been written in the language of your life. No one else can see it for you. No one else can walk through it. Only you. So sit with me. In a quieter space now, we'll step into a place where the light no longer hides, and the sign, the one you thought didn't exist, will begin to reveal itself, one breath at a time. There's a kind of miracle that most people never notice, because it doesn't shine like a rainbow after the rain, and it doesn't ring out like church bells on a Sunday morning. It won't bring you to tears on the spot, but it will make your soul quietly nod and whisper to itself, yes, this is the moment. Aries, have you ever walked through life feeling tired, without realizing that every step, even the heavy ones, was quietly leading you toward a sign? A coincidence that looked random on the outside, but was actually arranged with care, by an unseen hand. It's not that you've never seen the signs. It's that you were taught to look for them somewhere far away, on mountaintops, in rituals, or under the applause of crowds. But in truth, the sign has always been written in the simplest parts of your everyday life. God doesn't send letters through lightning or storms. He often speaks in small things, an unexpected conversation, a book that falls open to the exact page you needed, a morning where you suddenly feel like cleaning your room, as if you were cleaning out a corner of memory too. That's not coincidence. That's the language of the divine, spoken only when you're quiet enough to hear it. No one else can translate it for you, because the alphabet of that sign was written from your own unfinished dreams, your hidden wounds, and the victories you celebrated alone. When no one was there to see, you've fallen. You've been misunderstood. You've stayed silent while the world rushed on around you. But every one of those moments was a sacred symbol in the story only you can read. And if today you feel like something is quietly calling your name, softly, gently, but undeniably, then maybe that's the sign. Not because you're good enough, not because you're strong enough, but because you've finally been honest with yourself. Faith doesn't ask you to be certain. It only asks that you take one step toward the light, even if your hands still shake, even if your heart is full of questions. Aries, you don't need to prove anything to the world. You just need to believe in the one thing only you can feel: God is closest to us. In the moment we stop and say, I don't understand, but if this is what you want me to see, please give me the courage to open my heart. And he answers through a coincidence so precise. You know it's no accident at all. Maybe you felt it before. That strange knowing you couldn't explain. You see a look, a line of words, a scene, and something inside you remembers, not because it's new, but because it's something you've always known, and only now you're finally quiet enough to recognize it. So write that moment down. Tell it to someone who's just as lost as you once were. Because maybe your story is the exact sign they've been praying to find. And if you're wondering now what to do with all the signs becoming clearer, don't rush toward answers. There's a simple truth. When you're honest with yourself, the sign stops being a riddle. It becomes a gentle instruction. It won't force you, it won't scare you, but it also won't leave you alone, because suddenly you'll feel a quiet harmony inside between what you see, what you believe, and what you know you must do. And in that moment, you'll know you're ready. Sometimes the most sacred things don't show up in rituals, but in a clarity your mind could never explain. And when you're brave enough to stay in that moment, not turn away, not rush to name it, you'll start to hear something else. Something that only those who have truly lost their way and found the light again can ever hear fully. A whisper very close, a message not sent to everyone, but meant for the one who dares to pause and truly listen. Not everyone recognizes the most sacred moment of their life. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. No one hands you a trophy. No one takes note. It's just an ordinary afternoon, and you're standing at the edge of something, knowing deep down that if you don't step through now, there might never be another moment quite like this again. You won't be punished if you turn away. No one will take away God's love. There's no wrath from the sky, but there will be a quiet kind of loss. When the door that was designed specifically for your soul at this exact point in time gently closes, no one sees it shut. No one hears the click of fate. Only you, in the middle of the night, turning over in bed, will feel something heavy in your chest, not tied to any one reason, but to something that was never chosen. Aries, you are the one who dares to face it. You've walked through pain. You've held your fire through countless storms. You think you need more time, but time is not what you lack. What you lack is a decision. Some paths don't remain closed because you're not good enough. They stay shut because you haven't truly said yes to the voice within. Opportunities are not random. They are sacred invitations, calculated precisely from the experiences that shaped you into who you are right now. And when that invitation comes, it won't be wrapped in beauty. It might just be a single look in the mirror that stops you in your tracks and quietly asks, if not now, then when? Don't wait until the fear disappears. Don't wait for everyone around you to approve, because you know, Aries, some of the most beautiful things in your life only happened because you dared to go against what others expected. You have not been left behind this door. It simply requires you to be honest enough to walk toward it, not in a perfect version of yourself, but with a heart willing to place truth above fear. So ask yourself, what is the one thing I've known deep down I need to do but keep putting off? Why haven't I moved? For whom? Out of habit, out of fear that I'm not enough. Be honest. No one else needs the answer except you. You don't need a giant leap, just one honest step. One small action born from clarity, a single nod to the change that can no longer be delayed. And then, something strange happens. When you choose truth, you don't lose anyone. You simply stop losing yourself. That's something people who are just fine won't understand. They'll say you're too intense, too dreamy, too emotional, but time will say it best. When you live in alignment, you don't have to defend your choice. Your peace will defend you, and one day when you're walking a path that no one else seems to understand, you'll hear a voice rise from the stillness. Thank you for not turning away. Thank you for believing. Not every path is lit from the start, but when you have the courage to say yes to just one first step, the light will know how to find you. And in the exact moment you step out of waiting, something will rise, not from ahead of you, but from within. A small shift, but as powerful as the first heartbeat of a brand new life. Have you ever sat alone, watching the last light of day brush against your window? And in that stillness, you realized you already know what you need to do, you just haven't begun yet. No trumpet sounds, no grand plans, just one breath. A little deeper than usual and a quiet decision. Born from a heart slowly learning to be honest with itself. Aries, you are a being of action, but real action doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from the smallest, quietest steps, a message you've written and erased 10 times, a name you finally cross off the list, because deep down you know keeping it there only keeps hurting you both. A habit that felt like comfort but you now see as poison, gently set down, because for the first time in a long while, you're choosing to love yourself more. God does not wait for grand gestures. He only asks for one small move from you, to clear the way for something much greater. He has already lit a part of you, a part that never died, no matter how many times life tried to blow it out. Truth doesn't need spotlights. It only asks for this: a nod to yourself in the mirror, a sticky note on your bathroom glass, a soft promise written in your own handwriting. These are sparks. These are seeds of light growing from within. You don't have to be 100% sure. No one expects you to have it all figured out before taking a step. What matters is the courage to be honest with what you already know is right. Even if it's hard, even if no one else understands, even if you're still afraid. Someone once asked, "How do I know the difference between a real sign and something I just made up in my head?" The answer isn't out there. It lives in the peace you feel once you've made your choice, not the relief of escaping, but the quiet serenity that whispers, "I've finally stopped betraying what I believe is right." And you'll be surprised how even one small act can illuminate a path that once felt pitch black. A message sent, a no said without over-explaining, a morning where you don't check your phone first thing, an evening where you leave work early, just to walk and hear your own heartbeat again. Never underestimate the kind of change that starts with something tiny. Every great river begins as a trickle. Every turning point is born from action. Not just thoughts, not just dreams. You don't need others to understand what you're doing. You only need to not abandon what you already know must be done. Write it down, Aries, right now, not tomorrow, not when you're ready. Because readiness is not a condition for action. It is the result of it. You may tremble, but in that trembling, God is still with you, watching, holding you up, whispering, "I see you doing the right thing, keep going, I'll take care of the rest." Sometimes the light doesn't come from somewhere new. It was always there, waiting for you to return to it, to do the one thing you've known all along, with a heart more honest than ever before. And once you begin, even if it's something so small, you'll feel it. A quiet shift within you, like light, finally finding its way home. There's nothing more exhausting than trying to live in two realities at once, one where you know what's right, and one where you're pretending just to please others. Aries, you are strong. You are the symbol of fire, action, breakthrough, but in the quiet stretches of your life. You also know what it's like to nod your head yes, when your heart is screaming no. You've stayed, not because you loved, but because you were afraid of hurting someone else. You've smiled while something inside you was quietly breaking. And in those moments, you paid the price with the most sacred form of freedom, the freedom to live in alignment with your truth. Real freedom isn't recklessness. It isn't doing whatever you want or saying whatever you feel. Real freedom is the courage to be truthful, even when no one supports you, even when there's no applause, even when it means walking away from the roles you've worn for far too long. You don't need to shout for anyone to understand. You don't need to post a statement. You don't need to explain, because when you live honestly, peace will speak louder than anything else. You walk into a room, not seeking attention, and yet your quiet presence makes others reflect on themselves. You've stopped performing. You've taken off the costume that once fit the crowd but never fit your soul. Yes, you may lose a few relationships. You may feel lonely for a while, but soon you'll realize being alone and true is lighter than feeling lost in a crowd. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to be real, and real isn't some rigid moral standard. It's when you live, without betraying that quiet voice within. Aries, it's time to stop trying so hard. Stop forcing the role. Stop forcing the smile. Stop forcing the people-pleasing. Let your inner light come alive, even if others think you've changed. Even if your family doesn't understand, even if the world remains silent. God never asked you to be perfect. He asked you to be authentic. He sees you struggling each day to live honestly. And that struggle is the most powerful prayer you could ever offer. You don't need anyone's approval to begin. You just need to give yourself permission to be true. Ask yourself, am I really living by what I value most? Or am I just being a version of me that's easier for others to accept? And when you're ready, share what you're learning on this journey back to yourself. Because when you speak your truth, you don't just heal your own heart. You help someone else realize they're not alone in theirs. And perhaps the most miraculous thing of all is this: once you begin living in truth, you won't need to try to shine. The light will rise on its own from the places you once tried to hide. And when that light becomes clear enough, it won't hand you a simple answer. It will return something far greater, a piece of yourself you thought was lost forever. No one is ever truly ready, and no one wakes up one morning and says, "Today is the defining day of my life." It doesn't happen like that. That moment only arrives after you've spent what feels like forever wandering off course. After you've said the wrong thing, chosen the wrong person, believed in the wrong dream, and taken every detour you could. But somehow, when you look back from the distance of today, you realize every wrong turn was quietly guiding you to the exact place you were meant to be. No mistake was wasted. No heartbreak meaningless. Every disappointment, every breakdown, every time you gave up. It was all part of a sacred language, spoken only by a soul that's ready to awaken. Maybe you've blamed yourself, thought you were too late, that you wasted too much time on things that never deserved you. But let me remind you, you're not late. You've arrived at the perfect time, with a heart matured just enough to never walk away again. Let that truth settle in, like golden light softening an old familiar street, a place you once wanted to escape, suddenly made beautiful simply because you've come back different. Aries, your soul was never interrupted. It's still composing the symphony you thought you'd abandoned, and every wrong note you've played was necessary to create the crescendo that's coming. God never asked you to be perfect in order to choose you. He only asked that you never give up on yourself. Why did you go through all that pain? Why the losses, the unreturned love, the choices that led you nowhere? Not to break you, but to teach you how to hear the real voice beneath all the noise. And when your inner world becomes still enough, you'll see it clearly. It was all preparation. You've learned to sit with loneliness. You've learned to forgive without an apology. You've learned to rise even when no one cheered you on. You've walked through days when your faith hung by a single thread, but you didn't break. You rebuilt quietly, slowly, thread by thread. And that is exactly why today you can stand at this threshold with a heart that still knows how to love, how to trust, how to move forward. You're not behind. You're the one who cleared everything that needed to go so you wouldn't miss it this time. And if you've ever felt like everything I've lived was leading to this moment, then say it out loud. Share it, because someone out there needs to hear that they are not lost either, that they too are being prepared, that they haven't missed their appointment with destiny. And then, when you no longer wait for a miracle from the outside. Because you've become full from within, you'll see the truth. The only thing left is a step, not a grand gesture, not a perfect plan, just a step that's real. Because in the end, destiny doesn't ask for full understanding. It simply asks you to say yes to the calling with one honest action. Not everyone receives this invitation. Not because they are unworthy, but because only those who have sat in the dark, only the souls who have stayed silent long enough, can truly hear the signals that don't come in words. And you, Aries, you've been silent long enough, you've traveled far enough, you've grown up quietly without applause. That's why this invitation is meant just for you. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be ready by anyone else's standards. You only need to be here, fully present right now, with a heart that no longer wants to run. This isn't a trend. It's not a choice the crowd is making. It's a sacred invitation from the universe, delicately crafted, softly whispered, meant to reach your frequency at this exact time. You've come a long way through doubt, through silent waiting, through relationships you held onto long past their ending. You've compromised, looked away, said I'm fine when you were falling apart inside. And even if you think you've waited too long, the universe does not blame you. God never turned his back, because your delay was part of the sacred rhythm your soul needed. To finally understand this truth, starting over doesn't mean starting from scratch. It means starting from truth, with a heart that's done lying to itself. Write your commitment by hand. It doesn't need to be poetic, just a sentence you truly believe. Take a deep breath. Let every breath become a thread, connecting you to the Creator. No loud prayers needed, just a quiet, honest intention. Then act. No need for a grand master plan. Just one small, sincere move. One step in the right direction. One word without retreat. One change, however quiet. And remember, you don't owe the world an explanation. You only owe yourself one thing: to end your day in peace, to be able to close your eyes and say, I lived in truth today. And if you're still waiting for a clearer sign, let me say this. The fact that you're still here, still listening, still breathing in this silence, is the sign. Signs don't always come from outside. Sometimes they arrive as a quiet shift inside you, in the exact moment you admit, I can't keep living like this. And if you've been able to say that, then you are more ready than you think. No one can walk this path for you. No one else needs to understand why you must go. But if you turn back now, it'll just be more sleepless nights, more tired mornings with no clear reason why, more conversations where you've lost the sound of your own voice. Aries, say yes to this calling, not because you're fearless, but because you're tired of living a life that was never truly yours. You weren't born to please the world. You were born to be honest with your soul. And when you finally do that, every door will open, not because you're more worthy than anyone else, but because you've said yes to carrying the sacred fire of the truth you were given. Thank you, Aries, for staying until the very end. Thank you for listening with your heart, not just your ears. Thank you for having the courage to stay, even when what was spoken here was too true to be easy to hear. May you be quiet enough to hear the signal and brave enough to walk through the door made only for you. May you be guided by the light that rises from within you, because that light will never betray you.